Houston roads are busy again. We're in the thick of it daily to help you navigate, so you'll never be late for work.
No wait weather and traffic on CW 39.
ABC 13 Eyewitness News at 9 starts now on the CW 39.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Tom Abrams. Thanks for being with us on this Saturday night. The family of a murdered Freeport mother has a glimmer of hope that they may finally be able to lay her to rest nearly 4 decades later. This is the search for Rebecca Beard. She was known to her loved ones as Becky, and she went missing in 1986 at the age of 22. In 1994, a man named Paul Taylor admitted to murdering and then hiding her body. He's serving life in prison. Nearly 4 decades after that murder, Taylor led the FBI to where he says she's buried, and they've been searching for the last 10 days with Texas EquuSearch. ABC 13 reporter Daniela Hurtado spoke to the family about their renewed hope tonight.
Tom, a story with so many twists and turns. I spoke to Becky's daughter, who now has children of her own, and she tells us she remains hopeful. Becky's sister this afternoon told me that there was an agreement with the FBI and with the family that if that convicted murderer showed them where her remains were and they're positively identified, then he would be granted immediate release. Digging up hope for a family who has long awaited a miracle. For nearly 4 decades, Rebecca's family hasn't been able to give her a proper goodbye.
This is what we've waited for all these years, is for someone to finally look for her.
Years of pain and grief met with renewed hope.
I knew going into this it was going to be difficult at best. The net percentage weren't real great, but I knew if we didn't do it, then there was no chance whatsoever.
As Tim Miller with Texas EquuSearch helps search for Becky's remains, he says his heart is a little closer to this case.
Rebecca was murdered and buried in 1986, and they found Laura's body in 1986, and only a month apart.
Laura is Tim's daughter. The reason he started Texas EquuSearch to help others to begin with.
It's time that she's someplace besides out here, and I'm just hoping with all the animal activity and floods we've had and everything in the past that she's still here. I believe wholeheartedly that she was at one time, so let's hope she still is.
That's her family's hope too.
Do you think today will be the day that you guys find her?
I hope so. I do. I have faith.
Becky, only 22 at the time of her disappearance. Her daughter was about to turn 3.
And the last thing that she said was, "I love you."
A young mother who was very close to her family and called them all the time.
Becky was just full of life. She didn't deserve this.
She says they still don't know why her murderer, Paul Taylor, did it and targeted her. They didn't know each other. All they know is that her killing was done in a drunken rage. She was buried near his job at the time. Miller says the search for her remains will continue in the Angleton area until no stone has been left unturned. Daniela Hurtado, ABC 13 Eyewitness News.
Now to another family grieving an unimaginable loss. A grandfather and his 4 grandsons all murdered. And authorities say the killer was an escaped prisoner who was on the run for 3 weeks. Yesterday, relatives identified the victims as 66-year-old Mark Collins, brothers 18-year-old Waylon, 16-year-old Carson, and 11-year-old Hudson Collins, and their cousin, 11-year-old Bryson Collins. Waylon had just graduated from Tomball High School a few days ago, and his brothers and cousin were all students in Tomball ISD. They had gone to the family's rural cabin in Centerville to start their summer vacation, and that's where authorities say Gonzalo Lopez killed them and stole their pickup truck. He was later killed in a shootout with police near San Antonio. As the community mourns, there are many questions tonight about how Lopez broke free from a prison transport bus and eluded capture for so long. ABC 13's Brooke Taylor spoke to a local lawmaker who wants to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. Brooke?
Tom, I reached out to some of our lawmakers to find out if anyone was trying to make any changes because of those questions there that you just mentioned, I got in touch with Senator Whitmire, and he is pushing for change right now. He says this is what needs to be done. Any high-risk inmate who's being transported needs to be followed by another car with an armed officer to prevent anything like this from happening again. He is confident that he's going to make that change as soon as next week. Questions mount over how Gonzalo Lopez, a high-risk inmate serving 2 life sentences for capital murder and attempted capital murder, could possibly manage to break free before leading officials on a 3-week manhunt.
The fact that he could get out of his handcuffs and then get inside the cage where the driver was, you had several lapses in the system.
Senator John Whitmire, chairman of the Texas Senate Criminal Justice Committee, says the 4 kids, their grandfather, and their family now mourning their losses have been failed by bad procedures in place. The Texas Department of Criminal Justice, responsible for overseeing the state's prisons, says Lopez, who is being transported to a medical appointment, managed to get out of his restraints and cut through a caged area on the bus before his escape.
Whoever placed those on the individual, there was a failure there. They're not supposed to ever get out of their handcuffs or their shackles. Somebody didn't put them on there properly. Of course, you have to always be very suspect in this instance. Was it intentional or unintentional?
With 5 innocent lives now taken, Senator Whitmire says it's time for policy change when transporting violent criminals.
Here's my point that I'm ready to declare. We should never again allow a capital murderer serving a life sentence travel across the state in a bus. If they're in a bus, there should be a trailing security officer armed to make certain that if something went wrong on the bus, that the inmate does not escape.
A spokesperson for TDCJ tells ABC 13 they require 2 officers on the bus when transporting inmates. One of the officers on the bus is back to work, while the other is on approved leave.
Someone needs to trail. If someone comes out of their handcuffs and jumps the driver and the guard on the bus, you've got to have someone else ready to immediately apprehend this individual.
And Whitmire says he is going to present this to the TDCJ as soon as next week. He's confident that the director is going to be on board with this policy change, but he does tell me if there's any hesitation whatsoever, he is going to bring this to the legislator and hopefully make this into law, and they are meeting in January. But again, Whitmire tells me he thinks that he could make this policy and he will not have to wait until January. We're live in Tomball. I'm Brooke Taylor, ABC 13 Eyewitness News.
Brooke, thank you. No students or staff will ever return to Robb Elementary School in Uvalde following the mass shooting that killed 19 children and 2 teachers. 2 more victims were laid to rest today, and the funeral for another child is tomorrow. ABC's Faith Abube has new details emerging from this investigation.
The Uvalde School Board says Robb Elementary School will permanently close its doors following the mass shooting that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead.
That will not be a school for our children moving forward.
ABC News has learned that less than a minute before the gunman entered the building, a school employee pressed an internal alarm on a cell phone, setting off a chain of alerts within the school warning system of an active shooter. Seconds later, the shooter was inside the school. These latest details emerging following a report from the New York Times that says School District Police Chief Pete Arredondo arrived at the scene without his police radio. Authorities say the police chief wrongly believed it was a barricaded subject and no longer an active shooter situation, despite 911 calls still coming in from inside the classroom where the gunman was. One of those calls from 10-year-old student Chloe Torres, quietly telling a 911 dispatcher, quote, "My teacher is dead. Please send help. Send help for my teacher. She's shot, but still alive." 3 more victims of the massacre will be laid to rest this weekend. McKenna Elrod, Rogelio Torres, and Alethea Ramirez, all just 10 years old. In San Antonio, the community gathered Saturday for a Stand With Uvalde event. Organizers say one of the goals is to urge people to make their voices heard at the ballot box.
If this does not get us upset and focused on the need to change the direction of our country, what are our children going to say?
Survivors of the Uvalde shooting, as well as the shooting at a supermarket in Buffalo, will testify before Congress next week.
I have conversations all the time about racism and, gun violence, and now it's my story. So it's extremely important for me to be there to represent my community.
The father of 10-year-old Amarillo Garza is taking action. He has retained the same team of attorneys who sued the makers of the gun used in Sandy Hook. And now they have issued a letter to the makers of the AR-15 used in this shooting. Faith Abube, ABC News, Washington.
The Texas Tribune reports that the Dallas Morning News is going to run a full-page ad tomorrow that includes a letter from 250 Texans who donate to the Republican Party. These donors are urging Congress to take action on gun control measures in the wake of the Uvalde shooting. The donors call themselves gun enthusiasts, and some have donated to Governor Greg Abbott's campaigns. They all signed the open letter that supports Texas Senator John Cornyn's current efforts at bipartisan gun safety legislation. They should support gun measures, including red flag laws, expanded background checks, and raising the minimum age to buy a long gun. Still to come, relief finally on the way for parents struggling to find formula for their infants. We'll tell you how long it will take for new formula to hit store shelves now that the nation's largest manufacturing plant is running again. Plus, the celebrations for Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee continue without the Queen. We'll tell you why she's watching the festivities from home.
CW39 is teaming up with the Gulf Coast Regional Blood Center to save lives. You can give at the CW39 studios Friday, June 10th from 7 a.m. till 2 p.m. Your donation can save up to 3 lives. Go to CW39.com to learn more.
Show your dad how much he means to you by entering the Father's Day sweepstakes. Go to KSNT.com and enter for a chance to win a gift package valued at $225. Sponsored by Ace Plumbing, Kansas 811, and La Rocca's Pizza.
This portion of Eyewitness News is brought to you by Burlington. Love the deals.
Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee celebrations continued today with a star-studded concert in front of Buckingham Palace. Alicia Keys and Elton John performed. Prince William also addressed the crowd. There was a special edition of the Epsom Derby, too. That is one of the Queen's favorite horse racing events. Missing from the festivities today, however, the Queen herself. The palace says she did not attend either event because she is still feeling discomfort from Thursday's festivities. The nationwide celebration to mark Elizabeth's 70 years on the throne end tomorrow. Edie's the news so many parents have been waiting to hear. The largest baby formula factory in the country has restarted production. Abbott Nutrition says the factory in Michigan will prioritize EleCare specialty formulas for infants with severe food allergies and digestive problems. It will take about 3 weeks before new formula from that plant shows up on store shelves. Contamination issues forced the plant to shut down in February, which then contributed to a nationwide supply shortage. The first tropical disturbance of the Atlantic season battered parts of South Florida with heavy rain and flooding. Authorities in Miami warned drivers to stay off the roads, with many vehicles getting stuck in high water. The storm, once known as Agatha in the Pacific Ocean, will be known as Alex in the Atlantic Basin if it reaches tropical storm status there. And we saw a little bit of rain today in parts of southeast Texas. Here's meteorologist Rachel Bryars with what we can expect tomorrow.
Yeah, some of us even seeing some heavier rainfall. Most of that rain has since moved on out, but we still have a little bit of activity on our radar just south of Winnie. We do have one lone thunderstorm bringing some pockets of heavy rainfall and some lightning. This is moving down to the south, could impact part of High Island and possibly as far over as Crystal Beach. And really, in terms of activity throughout the next few hours, we should really start to see this rain chance drop on off. So if you didn't receive rainfall today, and you probably won't see much in the next, couple of hours. But as we head into the day tomorrow, I'm not going to rule out the potential of seeing an isolated storm or two. In the morning, though, just looking at partly cloudy conditions, going to continue to see that on and off throughout the day. And then heading into the afternoon to evening, we could see an isolated storm pop. It does look like we will remain capped, though. But if we can break through that cap, it's possible we could end up seeing a storm. Now, if that storm does break through the cap, then we also could see the potential for it to be a little bit on the stronger stronger side. But overall, at this moment, it does look like that cap will hold, but I am going to put in a 20% chance as we head into the afternoon as the sea breeze starts to roll on in, just in case that can kind of help to force that air upward, breaking that cap. So something we will watch for. But overall, mostly dry throughout the day tomorrow. And mostly dry is pretty much the name of the game as we head throughout this week. High pressure is going to really fill in over us as we head throughout your work week. That is going to keep us dry. It is also going to keep us hot. So get ready if you have those outdoor plans coming up this week. If any of your kids, are playing those summer sports, make sure that you're bringing a lot of water with you because it is going to be hot. Starting off with tomorrow, our temperature at around 93 degrees. By the time we make our way up to around Tuesday, we should see those temperatures climbing up into the upper 90s. So it is going to be very warm as we head into the next few days. But we could see a little bit of relief in terms of rain as we head into this next weekend. We have a weak front that's going to approach the area. As it does, could see a couple of isolated showers and storms. Overall, though, that chance does look like it will be on the slim side, but we are really crossing our fingers for it. A closer look at potential storm 1 right now. Still not a tropical depression or a tropical storm. It never really got that circulation for it to be classified as such. But as we head into really the next 12 to 24 hours, we should start to see it intensify into tropical storm Alex. Good news, it does look like it's going to continue off to the northeast, just heading out further to sea, so really shouldn't bring the United States really any issues as we head into the next few days. So here's a look at the rest of our forecast here. 74 degrees is your low tonight. High temperature tomorrow, 93. Hot and dry throughout this week with some slight chances of rain returning as we head into this weekend.
Rachel, thank you. Now to Adam for a look at sports. Well, one day you look like an all-star, the next day not so much.
Astros just trying to check all the boxes. They're appealing to the fans that love offense and maybe love pitching and defense a little bit more. Astros scored 10 runs on 14 hits yesterday, and they get bageled today. A goose egg. Stros lose 6-0 at Kansas City. Astros shut out for the 5th time this season. And folks, we're only about a third of the way through the 162-game slate. Some perspective for you. The Stros were shut out 7 times all of last season. They're still in first place, though. Let's stop complaining. Last season, outfielder Jake Myers played a key role for those Astros down the stretch and into the postseason, but it was early in those playoffs when he suffered a torn labrum in his shoulder, an injury that required surgery. This weekend, he's playing in games for the first time since his injury. It's a rehab assignment with the AAA Sugarland Space Cowboys. I chat with their manager, Mickey Story, about what it's like having Myers back after he played 68 games for Sugarland last year before getting that call to the Stros.
You know, it's always great for the team, but a guy like Jake is especially great, a guy I've coached for a number of years, a guy who had a great amount of success, and we got to see him make that drive up the road last year and play in the big leagues. Ultimately, it's to get him back ready and help the big league team, and I know he's chomping at the bit. I've communicated with him over the last couple of weeks, knowing that the time was looming, and he's excited, especially being this place. This was the last stop he had before he made his dreams come true, so it'll be great. It'll be great for Jake. It'll be great for our club. It'll be great for the fans here. But like I said, ultimately, get this guy back to competing at the big league level and help our team get to another World Series.
And scoring some runs. Last night, the first game of his rehab assignment, Myers went 0 for 4. He's not in the lineup tonight. Memorial High School product Cody Clemens is in the majors for the first time. The rookie starts in left field today for the Detroit Tigers at Yankee Stadium. Check this out. Cody and his father, Roger, acknowledge each other prior to the game. Roger, of course, a Houston icon. He pitched 6 seasons for the Yankees. That's a cool moment for the family. Cody went 0 for 3 in today's Tigers loss. On the high school diamond, softball, the UIL Class 5A state title game, Lake Creek out of Montgomery wins its first ever state championship. The school was just established in 2018. Lions beat Georgetown 7-0 to finish the year 40-0. Not one but 2 state softball titles coming back to our greater Houston area. Congrats also in order for the Liberty High School Lady Panthers. It's their 2nd straight Class 4A title. They beat Sweeney 5-0 for their 3rd state championship in 5 years. Finally tonight, arch rivals Texas and Oklahoma meeting in the College World Series. This foul ball coming right off the camera lens. Oh, that's not the only hard-hitting action we see in OKC. Nimitz High School product Janae Jefferson slugs her 4th home run of the NCAA tournament. She hit just 3 homers during the regular season. But Janae and her Longhorns lose to OU. Texas will now play Arizona in an elimination game tomorrow. Tom, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but your Florida Gators lose to Oklahoma State. We're on a collision course for an Oklahoma State national championship in Oklahoma City.
In Oklahoma City.
Yeah. No, people might show up.
They just might. Yeah. All right, thanks, Adam. Good to see you. Still to come, with sky-high inflation, you may be losing money if you're putting your savings in the bank. We've got some ideas on how you can put your money to work for you and get returns of up to 9%. Sky-high inflation is hitting all of our wallets pretty hard. On top of the rise in prices, interest rates for traditional savings accounts remain low. That means the money you're saving for a rainy day may actually be losing value. ABC's Rena Roy has some tips for making that money work for you.
Inflation is sky high right now, and if you have your money parked in a traditional savings account earning, let's be honest, nothing %, the fact is you are losing money.
CNET Money's Farnoosh Torabi says the value of how far your dollar can stretch is diminishing as it sits in that plain vanilla savings account.
If you had $1 in a bank account last year and you saved it, and now with inflation hovering over 8%, that dollar is actually worth closer to 92 cents.
Typically, when the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, savings rates also increase.
So while we have seen mortgages, personal loans, credit cards increase as far as APR and interest rates, we haven't seen the same sort of upward movement in the savings landscape.
Torabi has a few tips on how you can make the most of your savings right now. Number one, compare interest rates at digital banks.
There are a lot of digital competitors right now vying for our savings dollars, and many of them do offer better than average savings rates.
Tip number two, look for sign-up bonuses.
If you're a new customer, they may offer you a welcome sign-on bonus, giving you an immediate boost to your savings account.
Tip number three, if you don't need your savings right away, consider I-bonds.
So I-bonds are government-backed securities. They adjust twice a year to mimic where inflation is. And right now, I-bonds are earning well over 9%.
When deciding if I-bonds are right for you, keep in mind you can't touch that money for a minimum of 1 year. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Still to come, a retired judge murdered in his home. Authorities say he was targeted by a man with a hit list of prominent politicians.
We're looking out for you to start your day with the CW39 newsletter. Fresh news delivered to your inbox. While you're at it, sign up for no-wait weather and traffic alerts sent to your email. It's easy. Just give us your email address.
ABC 13 Eyewitness News at 9 starts now on the CW39.
We begin this half hour with breaking news involving a Brazoria County Sheriff's deputy who was arrested while working in Uvalde after last week's deadly shooting. The Sheriff's Office confirms to ABC 13 that the patrol deputy was involved in an off-duty incident in Uvalde County on Thursday. Local law enforcement took that deputy into custody and then charged the deputy with public intoxication, a Class C misdemeanor. The deputy was immediately relieved from the Uvalde assignment, and there is an internal investigation underway. That deputy was part of a team of 8 patrol deputies and 2 dispatchers sent by Brazoria County to assist the community in Uvalde after a statewide call for assistance. The deputy's name has not been released. A statement from the Sheriff's Office reads, quote, "The Brazoria County Sheriff's Office holds our employees to the highest standards on and off duty, and we regret this deputy's actions during a time when the community of Uvalde deserves nothing but our best we have to offer." The murder of a retired judge in Wisconsin may be an act of domestic terrorism. He was found dead in his home, zip-tied to a chair. Authorities say the suspect who targeted him had a hit list of prominent politicians. Here's ABC's Phil Lipoff.
Tonight, a former Wisconsin judge is dead, shot in his home, and police say he was targeted. 6:30 Friday morning, the 911 call came in.
It's his neighbor's son from across the street is banging on the door saying that someone murdered his father.
Police rushing to the home of former Circuit Court Judge John Romer.
The Juneau County Special Tactics and Response Team entered the residence and located the homeowner, a 68-year-old male who was deceased. A 56-year-old male was located in the basement with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Wisconsin officials identifying the suspect as Douglas Uda. He is in critical condition. Law enforcement briefed on the investigation, telling ABC News the judge was zip-tied to a chair and fatally shot. According to those same law enforcement sources, Uda had a hit list in a car found at the scene. On that list, Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, and Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. A spokesperson for Governor Whitmer calling the news reports deeply troubling and saying she will not be bullied or intimidated.
We have been able to contact the people who we believe may have been targets and to notify them. The others, as far as we are aware, are safe at this point.
As for a motive, the Attorney General only saying it has to do with a court case or cases. In 2020, New Jersey federal judge Esther Salas was targeted at her home by a disgruntled lawyer who shot her husband and killed her son. She spoke with our Robin Roberts.
It had been months, if not a year, when he last appeared before me.
Had he ever threatened you in any kind of way?
Nothing. There was nothing.
But he was able to get her home address. She is now joining the fight for federal legislation to prevent that.
Turning now to sports, Boston takes on Golden State tomorrow in Game 2 of the NBA Finals. The Stanley Cup also starting later this month. Like all sports, the healthier team is usually the better team. But treating key players is no longer just about physical health. Adam Winkler's back with more on this story. Adam?
Tom, a recent survey conducted by the NCAA itself reveals that college athletes are dealing with exhaustion, anxiety, and depression nearly twice as much now than before the pandemic. Aside from the impacts of COVID-19, pressures from success and scholarships and even sponsorships have helped lead to a mental health crisis in college sports.
First pitch. Houstonian Nicole Mendez, a two-time NCAA softball champion and an Olympian, has reached the highest levels of her sport. Nicole Mendez! And she knows it is not enough.
As athletes, you know you will never be perfect, but you will die trying to climb that hill to reach perfection.
The last part of Nicole's statement is tragically true. Several NCAA athletes have died by suicide in 2022. Including former James Madison catcher Lauren Burnett, who Mendez played against with Oklahoma in last year's Women's College World Series.
Girls, these athletes, these people on college campuses are struggling.
I wish I could say that I was surprised that we're seeing more of it.
Kirsten Collins is a licensed mental health professional. As a sports performance consultant with the Institute of Sports Performance here in Houston, she works with athletes in all sports at all levels, including current student athletes at HBU.
Access that the public has to a collegiate student athlete, which, let's be honest, is an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid who has been thrown into independence, extra responsibility, and elite sports for the first time in their whole life, has grown exponentially.
Collins, who swam collegiately for the University of Texas, admits she dealt with her own mental health challenges as a student athlete.
I didn't know what to call what I was struggling with because no one was talking about it.
Mendez had a similar experience while in school at the beginning of her sophomore year.
I was coming off a national championship. I was Big 12 Freshman of the Year. I led the team in batting average. I think I was overwhelmed by my own personal expectations. It took a really long time to break down and to open up.
Mendez is proud of the progress she's made on her mental health journey, noting visits with counselors, psychologists, and her inner circle have helped. These are critical resources Collins says every athlete should be able to access.
If we're taking a proactive approach, it means that preparation for the new demands as a student athlete and routine care as a part of being a student athlete before there's a major issue or injury.
Because like treating physical injuries, mental health is part of making sure your body is ready to perform at the highest level.
In order to be the best mentally, you have to be functioning at 100%.
A survey we mentioned prior to the story shows less than half of female athletes feel mental health is a priority for their athletic department. The NCAA Constitution mandates each school create an environment that reinforces the need for and encourages the availability of resources for physical and mental health concerns within athletics. But Tom, this is obviously an issue and it needs to be addressed by the NCAA because, like Nicole said, mental health should be just as focused as physical health.
Any indication they're listening?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Good story. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. Let's take a look at our weather now with meteorologist Rachel Bryars. Rachel, a little bit of rain today and a lot of heat throughout the week.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to really turn up as we head into the next few days. Tomorrow will be another warm one, starting off with our temperatures in the 70s at around 6 a.m. We're going to quickly rise up, though, by 9 a.m. to around 80 degrees, and then high temperatures tomorrow topping out right at around 93 with partly cloudy skies. Now, unlike today, we are not expecting quite as much rainfall, but it is possible we could end up seeing an isolated storm or two pop, but most of us will stay dry. We'll take a closer look at the rest of your forecast coming up.
Rachel, thank you. Today, Houston's Asian community unveiled a new mural in the heart of Asiatown. ABC 13's Maya Shea was there to show us what it represents.
Hi, it's Maya Shea. We're here at Sterling Plaza. This is the new longevity mural. Just unveiled today. There you see a father and son hugging. There are scenes of food and family. And this was commissioned by the local Vietnamese Community Association and supported with a lot of Asian communities because May was Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And we wanted a mural out in the heart of the community to really signify what it means to be Asian Americans and to welcome the entire greater Houston region here. There you see a lot of the names of local folks who helped paint and make this a reality. This is right at H Mart, Simpson, Sterling Plaza. We had a lot of people in the community come today. Please come out, check it out, and enjoy some of the great food surrounding the area.
Maya, thank you. The Houston area is proudly home to many Asian communities. In fact, we boast the second largest Vietnamese population in the country. ABC 13's lead reporter on race and culture issues, Rosie Nguyen, takes us through the history of our Vietnamese community.
A lot of them were fishermen and fisherwomen, right, back in Vietnam. And so they wanted to live along the coastline.
Dr. Roy Vu, a Houston native who teaches history at Dallas College, explains what partly made southern Texas appealing to the Vietnamese is its similar climate to their native country and proximity to the ocean. But their newfound success in the fishing and shrimping industry developed conflict with native white fishermen, even leading to a clash at one point with the Ku Klux Klan.
They started, brandishing weapons and making death threats, and of course burning crosses.
For other refugees, many picked up jobs in professions unfamiliar to them, desperate to do whatever it took to keep their family afloat. It's a struggle Hoang Nguyen knows all too well, remembering how he had to rebuild his life in Houston at age 23 with his wife and children.
To me and my wife, we have to work 10 hours a day, 365 days a year. To make ends meet, to go to, I still have to go to school and learn English.
He remembers the early years of resettlement when you couldn't find Vietnamese food or supplies anywhere. But that changed rather quickly. Over the years, enclaves of Vietnamese businesses have migrated from downtown to Midtown and now to the A-Leaf area. If you take a drive down Bel Air Boulevard, west of Beltway 8 now, you'll find Little Saigon, a thriving and bustling district of Vietnamese businesses.
These spaces provide comfort, solace, peace, and a reconnection with their homeland, South Vietnam.
Dr. Vu says the Vietnamese presence in Houston will only continue to grow. Nguyen says he plans to stay in this area for the rest of his life, the city that became his home away from home.
I travel a lot around the world and around these United States. And finally, I thought Houston is the best place to live. To me, the best place to live.
I'm Rosie Nguyen reporting for ABC 13 Eyewitness News.
Still to come on this Saturday night, construction at Bush Intercontinental Airport is leaving some travelers stuck in traffic and rushing to catch their flights. We'll tell you how to navigate the airport more smoothly for your summer vacation. The first Mexican-born woman to fly to space got a ride in a Blue Origin spacecraft. Katia Echevarría was one of 6 crew members who lifted off from the company's facility in West Texas this morning for that short flight. The 26-year-old electrical and hardware engineer is the first passenger sponsored by the nonprofit Space for Humanity. She's also one of the youngest women to fly to space. This was Blue Origin's 5th successful human spaceflight. Going to space may be less of a hassle than catching a plane these days. Many of you experienced long traffic delays at Bush Intercontinental Airport over the Memorial Day weekend. And it's not going to get any better throughout the summer because of construction of a new terminal. So what can you do to make getting to the airport and through it a little easier? ABC 13's Micah Hatfield went to find out.
People are very frustrated about the line of cars they've been having to sit in here at Bush Airport. They've been stopping and telling us how long they've been waiting in line. There's buses, there's police, there's limos, there's people dropping off, picking up, and we're headed into the summer months when travel is expected to actually pick up. The Houston airport system is advising passengers to arrive 1 hour earlier than they usually would.
We came 4 hours early.
4 hours?
Well, I mean, instead of the traditional 3 hours because of the traffic.
Word is spread about the traffic delays some headed to Terminal C, D, and E are seeing at Bush Airport.
Get here early, there's a lot of traffic, expect delays, and, just kind of go with your patience.
We also had updates from the airline warning us from United saying that it could be major delays.
Those delays started when the airport began construction on a new world-class international terminal last summer that's expected to be completed in 2024. It shut down much of Terminal E and has caused traffic backups that have been frustrating for travelers. This video was taken Monday afternoon at the end of the holiday weekend. Typically, the Houston airport system says travelers aren't affected by delays except during their peak hours, Thursday through Sunday, 4 to 8 p.m.
We're constantly monitoring and analyzing different ways in which we can improve the traffic flow here at the airport. We've tried different things, and as the project evolves, we're looking to all different options. Right now, it's a matter of real estate and space in the roads.
Next month, they're planning to open an additional lane on South Terminal Drive that will hopefully alleviate some of the congestion. In addition to build the new terminal, last summer, the parking garage for Terminal D and E was torn down. Available parking can be tough to come by on airport grounds, especially during those peak travel periods.
The biggest recommendation is to secure your parking spot online. You can go online and reserve your spot, and that way you don't have to spend time driving around looking for your parking space.
Micah Hatfield, ABC 13 Eyewitness News.
Have you ever felt like you have a really good solution to a problem in our city, but you don't know how to tackle it? Well, today at the Design for Houston event, Houstonians were invited to find solutions to everyday problems. They came together to tackle a civic issue through a design process, and they got the chance to learn tools, techniques, and best practices of creative problem solving and design thinking. One of the main focuses of the event was digital equity in Houston.
That's kind of the main challenge of today is how do we communicate better to folks that don't have access so that we can get them connected and close the digital divide.
At the end of the problem-solving process, ideas will be evaluated by a panel of experts with the goal of eventually being adopted and put into use by the city of Houston.
A few of us lucked out and saw some of that good rainfall today, but a lot of us ended up staying dry. And we're going to continue to dry out as we head into the next few hours. We do have a little bitty shower that's dropping to the south towards the Bolivar Peninsula, but mostly the radar has begun to get very quiet. Now, as we push into the day tomorrow, also going to start things off on a quiet note. Partly cloudy skies, temperatures starting off in the low to mid 70s, but then we're going to quickly heat up as we head into the morning as well as into the afternoon. 86 degrees by 11 a.m. and then into the afternoon, our high temperature is going to top out in the low 90s. So it is going to get hot. But there is a tiny bit of a chance that we could see an isolated storm or two. It does look like tomorrow we will end up being capped. So unless we can break through that cap, we won't see much in terms of rain. I'm going to leave in a 20% chance just in case we break that cap, but overall, those rain chances do look like they will be on the slim side. So cross your fingers if you really want that rainfall, or better yet, just go ahead and get your car washed, and then I'm sure it'll rain on you. As we push into the day tomorrow, high temperature of 93 degrees here in Houston, 95 in Katy, and 90 in Galveston. Let's factor in that humidity, and that is going to bring our feels-like temperatures up to near 100 degrees. So if you're planning anything outdoors tomorrow, if you're planning on, heading on out to the park, make sure that you're staying hydrated because it is going to get hot, and it's just going to get hotter as we push throughout this week as high pressure continues to build in over the state of Texas as we head throughout your work week. So those temperatures just going to continue to climb, eventually making their way up into the upper 90s as early as Tuesday, and then it looks like we're going to stay in the 90s, the upper 90s, as we head throughout the rest of this week. Yes, it's going to be hot. and it's also going to be mostly dry. So if you have those outdoor plans, you pretty much should be good to go. Slight chances of rainfall look to pop back up as we head into the end of the week, as well as into this weekend. We also could see a weak front approach the area as we head into Sunday, and that could bring us a slight chance of rain.
Rachel, thank you. After 20 years, Waltrip High School band director Jesse Espinoza is saying goodbye to HISD. Espinoza led the Roaring Red Ram Band to events including former President Obama's second inauguration and Super Bowl events here in Houston.
And I'm feeling good.
Espinoza told our partners with the Houston Chronicle that during his time at Waltrip, he has scraped and scrapped to keep the band competitive. His students wore tattered uniforms at times and played instruments that were sometimes held together by duct tape or rubber bands. And he says the band always needed more funding and resources.
The support is needed for what we do here in music education and in the fine arts. This is why why kids come to school. You know, math, English, science, social studies, super important. However, that's everywhere. This has only been here at Waltrip High School in its form for all these years. And so we need to find a way to keep things like this going in all of our schools.
Espinoza says it's not about making himself happy, but about giving the kids what they need to be successful. The band played a farewell show for him today. Thank you, Mr. Espinoza, for all your years of service. Well, we've heard countless stories of the American dream, but somehow they're all so different. Even sports can influence someone's desire to make the journey to the United States. From West Africa to Texas, Greg Bailey has more on this inspiring story.
On a lonely field, he is the gifted one.
He could easily play on Sundays. Just his drive, his work ethics.
He's also the distinguished one.
You have an example for the younger kids. And you can say, hey, remember Enoch, or, remember how he did it.
Enoch Gota's how begins in his native West Africa, an 11-year-old on a journey to America by himself.
If I hear a family speaking French, I pick it up, go out, ask them for directions.
The directions led him to his parents, but instruction couldn't help him fit in.
I had no friends. I was just quiet. I was just trying to go get by.
That changed when a coach convinced Enoch to kick a football.
Oh, it's that guy that kicks. We shake hands, started making a lot of friends.
For the first time in America, he heard his name. But his classmates didn't know everything.
Definitely take the officer route and be an officer in the United States Navy.
He's also an ROTC leader at Dekaney High School. If his scholarship to Rice doesn't lead to the NFL, he dreams of serving his country.
Man, America's a great country. Coming from another country, you can kind of compare with the opportunity America really provides for you.
It's even better in the 4 languages he speaks fluently. Forever gifted and lonely no more. I am Enoch Gota, and I am thankful for America.
Story gives you goosebumps, doesn't it? That was Greg Bailey reporting. Enoch tells Greg he'll major in computer science at Rice with an eye on cybersecurity. We'll be right back.
And claim they're the most accurate. But only No Wait Weather and Traffic has the seal to prove it.
Don't risk your family's safety. Trust the most accurate weather team in Houston. No Wait Weather and Traffic, only on CW 39 Houston. This portion of Eyewitness News is brought to you by Burlington. Love the deals.